The saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom. I do not fear computers, I fear the lack of them. The most exciting phrase to hear in science, the one that heralds new discoveries, is not eureka, but that's funny. Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. The true delight is in the finding out rather than in the knowing. Life is pleasant, death is peaceful. It's the transition that's troublesome. The only constant is change, continuing change, inevitable change. That is the dominant factor in society today. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. The saddest words in the English language are what might have been. It is not only the living who are killed in war. The easiest way to solve a problem is to deny it exists. Self-education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. The saddest thing about love is that not only the love cannot last forever, but even the heartbreak is soon forgotten. The human brain, then, is the most complicated organization of matter that we know. Writing, to me, is simply thinking through my fingers. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. Never let your sense of morals prevent you from doing what is right. Science fiction writers foresee the inevitable. And although problems and catastrophes may be inevitable, solutions are not. If my doctor told me I had only 6 minutes to live, I wouldn't brood. I'd type a little faster. The saddest words in any language are "I might have been." The only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. I write for the same reason I breathe, because if I didn't, I would die. The foundation of democracy is justice, and justice is the will of the people. It's not so much that I am an atheist and I don't believe in God. I don't, and I don't believe that the evidence supports the idea that there is a God. But I'm fascinated by religion because it has had such an effect on human beings. Knowledge is indivisible. When people grow wise in one direction, they are sure to make it easier for themselves to grow wise in other directions as well. Individual science fiction stories may seem as trivial as ever to the blinder critics and philosophers of today, but the core of science fiction, its essence, has become crucial to our salvation if we are to be saved at all. The only stable state is the one in which all men are equal before the law. The saddest expression in the world is that of a child before it has learned to smile. Life is composed of lights and shadows, and we would be untruthful, insincere, and saccharine if we tried to pretend there were no shadows. In life, unlike chess, the game continues after checkmate. The greatest discoveries are made because people ask questions that have never been asked before. It is change, continuing change, inevitable change, that is the dominant factor in society today. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. The saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom. If knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we can solve them. The most exciting phrase to hear in science, the one that heralds new discoveries, is not eureka, but that's funny. The future is not an inheritance. It is an opportunity and an obligation. The only education in grief that any of us ever gets is a crash course. We're allowed very little time for it. A subtle thought that is in error may yet give rise to fruitful inquiry that can establish truths of great value. The advance of civilization is nothing but an exercise in the limiting of privacy. Science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom. The saddest words in the English language are only of people who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do. It takes more than capital to swing business. You've got to have the EID degree to get by. Advertising, initiative, and dynamics. I am not a speed reader. I am a speed understander. Your assumptions are your windows on the world. Scrub them off every once in a while, or the light won't come in. The most useful piece of learning for the uses of life is to unlearn what is untrue. The only thing that we know is that we know nothing, and that is the highest flight of human wisdom. The fundamental cause of the trouble is that in the modern world, the stupid are kosher, while the intelligent are full of doubt. If knowledge disappears, the difference between a living thing and a robot is the slight for comfort. It is the writer of science fiction who is able to assume what the scientist can only suppose. The true delight is in the finding out rather than in the knowing.